In this video, I will walk you through the new Kling AI update version 1.5. First, we'll explore the power of upgraded 1.5 model and how it's pushing the boundaries of realistic and cinematic video generation with crystal clear 1080p HD resolution. Then, we'll dive into brand new features like Motion Brush to maximize your creative potential. We'll put new updates, video quality, prompt understanding, and especially waiting times to a detailed test. Let's get started. I would like to start with image to video and Motion Brush. If you want to switch to the new version, all you need to do is coming here to this drop-down menu and picking the Kling 1.5. You can also see the new label here. The new Motion Brush I will demonstrate is not available in version 1.5. At the moment, it's only available in the previous version, 1.0. We have now this number of generations slider. You can generate maximum 4 videos from the same prompt. But most important change is definitely new Motion Brush. Let me show you how it works. When you click on Motion Brush here, it will take you to this screen. Motion Brush simply allows you to choose a section or a part of the image you uploaded and then draw a trajectory of a motion. You can do this in 2 ways. First, you can manually select and choose one element in the image using Brush tool, and then you can choose track and give a trajectory to the motion. Then this simply means I want Wolf to move towards this direction in the video. There's a second way of choosing elements in your images. You can click on auto segmentation, then algorithm will analyze the image you uploaded and separate the elements in the image. So with one click you can choose Wolf, and then you draw the trajectory again, and then you hit confirm. And this is how end result looks like. It makes it very easy to select objects and elements in the image. I simply choose this ball, I click on track, and I give a direction, and then it's done. I don't need to manually brush up the ball itself. In the same way, for the second element, I choose area 2, and it automatically chooses the second subject. Then if I want, for example, the other subject to move upwards parallel to ball, I can just create this trajectory here, and it will make the woman here jump up. For this particular image, I draw 4 paths. I gave all 3 women a different movement, and then ball also goes up. And this is how it looks like in the end. We have a little bit of an issue here with the hand and arm, but the rest of the motion is perfect. I marked this woman to go up, and this one as well, and this woman to go forward. And as you can see, it works perfectly good. Here, in this another example, I choose this Milan eagle. Let me show you from scratch how I did that. I clicked on auto segmentation, and when I hover over it, you can see it's highlighting different parts of the eagle. It would be still fine if I would choose, for example, just one wing, but just to be sure, using auto segmentation and by holding shift, you can choose multiple elements together. All I need to do is now choosing a track. Simply, I want this eagle to fly over here, and it's done. I will do same for the other 2 subjects. In the end, I marked all these paths, and motion looked like this. We had a good result with the eagle here, but I cannot say I was particularly impressed with the other 2 subjects. Another issue here that you will realize while using Motion Brush, if you are working with this kind of art style, like a drawing or illustrative style of image, when you use Motion Brush, sometimes it transforms characters into more realistic looking subjects. Next example I want to show you is Motion Brush comes really handy if you want to add motion to particular parts of a subject. For example, here I choose the wolf's head and I gave this motion track. After confirming and generating the image, it looks like this. As you can see, head nicely turns back as I instructed. Only issue here is it turned it into a little bit more realistic looking wolf. In the next example, I actually challenged the algorithm a little bit. I picked this bear cub and drove this path. I simply wanted bear cub to climb over the mother bear. It's a very difficult motion and it's not really easy. But in the end, I was quite impressed with the result. This made me think that there is quite a lot of potential for this Motion Brush system. Of course, maybe if I would draw the full trajectory of the movement, then I would have a bear cub looking on this side and not on the back. The final position looks quite funny. And don't forget, I always add this negative prompts to ensure that results look much better. In the next example, I have a realistic looking image, and I will show you power of auto segmentation. When I turn it on, I am able to choose face of this subject and give a really cool, quick trajectory. In the same way, I can choose this subject. I don't need to choose the whole body. Just the upper body is enough. Then I can draw this track here. As you can see, it puts the arrowhead on its own. You don't need to draw this. And lastly, I choose the third area, the face of the other subject. And I will also give a motion to this face. So I use 3 areas and all these motion tracks. And in the end, it looked like this. I had my subject looking up to this character. The character I chose there was actually walking towards me, but suddenly this other character appeared. And for the face here, I was maybe hoping like he would look back to the camera. Maybe I drew it wrong. I ended up with this head movement, which is also totally fine because it looked really natural. Next thing I want to show you is adding static areas. If you don't want single or multiple elements in the image to not move, meaning you want them to stay static, you can pick this option here and you can select the area that you want it to stay static. In this example, I choose the model here and I select it as a static area to the rest of the elements on the background, and I gave them special motion tracks. This one over this direction, this area here over up, and this area over down. And end result looked quite artsy and quite interesting. As you can see, then my subject stayed static and rest of the image is moving. It's pretty impressive. In the next example, I selected my subject's boot. I gave this kick direction, then I chose my subject's face or head and moved it back. This could have most likely enough, but just to ensure that it's gonna be smooth, I also added the prompt woman kicks. And I was impressed by the result. I got a smooth kick move, and despite the reflective material, it stayed quite consistent throughout the motion. In the next example, I'm choosing my character's face because I want my character to look back. And as a track, I use this simple motion, just slightly look back. And I got this motion here, a very slow, subtle turn. I will show you in a second that there is a correlation between how long the arrow is and how fast the motion will be. I will demonstrate this to you. So in this example, I decided to use all 6 of the areas together and see what's gonna happen. I choose 6 ships and selected them one by one using auto segmentation. Between these 2 ships, I draw a longer arrow, you can see. And then I ended up with this shot. Look at the ship here, how fast it's moving. It's taking into account how long the arrow is, and based on the length of the arrow, it's setting up its own speed. And rest of the movement is very fluid. Ships moved in the directions that I specified. Next shot is a simple subject selection and giving a direction and letting our subject slowly walk. It's a simple shot and I was impressed by the result, except a little bit of a blinking here with texture of the material of the clothing, but rest looks quite smooth. Here's another example. My main subject's face is selected and I want my subject to look up towards this man. There is also motion in the background. You can see this subject's supposed to move over here and my last subject's supposed to move towards right. I ended up with this result. I got the movement here and it got the movement right. Also my subject here, you can see how she's looking up nicely, but it didn't manage to get the movement of the third character, which is fine. It's not the end of the world. I had another example. Here I just choose waterfall and I wanted to only see the motion of the waterfall going down, and besides that I didn't want any camera motion. I ended up with this shot. You can see, yeah, waterfall motion is there, but camera is also moving. I think this has something to do with how long the arrow you draw is. If length of the arrow is too long, sometimes Kling just gives this camera motion to the shot to be able to catch up with the speed of the motion. To prevent that, I wrote the prompt static camera, and this time I got a much better shot. So of course there is a little bit of camera movement again, but it's not a big deal. I got the static camera and I got this nice shot. So my suggestion to you is, if you want to keep the camera static while giving some motion in the image, just write static camera to your prompt and mark the motion however you want to see. But if you overcomplicate the prompt, then you won't get the static camera. In the next example, I had a little bit of struggle as well. Maybe again, I draw such a long arrow for these 2 subjects. It ended up with dude jumping on the other subject. And it looked really bad. It's not really fluid and it's not really nice motion. I really think it has something to do with how long the arrow I draw is. Then in the next example, I just simply gave the image as an image prompt. I didn't mark the motion paths, and it just did a much better job with the running motion. So sometimes it's much better to just trust the algorithm and don't try to over-control every element in the image. Or if you're gonna do it, draw short arrows or medium-sized arrows. In the next example, I wanted to challenge the model a little bit. And as you can see, I had this dervish shot where she's turning around herself. And I gave this trajectory. This is a difficult one. And I was actually impressed by the result. It got the turning right, but the movement kind of became a spaghetti. It starts with the wrong direction and it turns to the other way then. At least the last part looked good. Another challenge shot for the model. I have a subject standing and there's a shadow of an airplane. It's a difficult one because it needs to separate shadow from the surface and it needs to separate subject. So I choose the shadow as an area 1 and rest I didn't touch. Yeah, and then in the end, it got a little bit confused because yes, it's a difficult one. Then I decided to choose shadow as an area 1 and rest of the image I choose as a static area. Then I got much better results. Even though I had still a little bit of trouble with the shadow here, I got what I wanted. It's just suddenly I had a new subject appeared here, which is unwanted. But this shows the importance of sometimes using the static area. So most of the time, choosing a motion area will be enough for your needs, but occasionally you may need to mark some static areas. Now I want to show you version 1.5. You can switch from here. And image to video is the most popular use case for Klink. It's used much more often than text to video. And you can see there is some significant improvement with version 1.5. Even though version 1 is also quite good, the fluidity of motion, the wind, and my subject's dress and how dress moves in the wind, it just looks much more fluid. The motion looks much more natural. And then video output is 1080p 30 frames per second. It's a full HD video generation. And if I'm not mistaken, I think it's first time in an image to video tool that you have full HD resolution. So without trying to upscale your video, you already have a very good shot that you can use. I want to show you a few more examples of Klink 1.5 image to video. Look at this shot here. The motion, the fluidity, the emotion. The motion looks really natural and it's a pleasure to use image to video with Klink. This got a little bit weird because I didn't write any prompt, right? It's just image to video. And it suddenly made 3 different camera shots from a single image. I was just looking forward for a simple motion from the single shot that my subjects maybe just moves naturally. But it kind of gives some additional shots, which is not bad, but I didn't really specify that. So for me, this shot is not really usable. I got some similar issue here. It also switched the camera shot, and I think it did a good job with my character's emotional change here. And then this switch to the silhouette shot is definitely not bad, but I didn't specify that. So I observed sometimes Klink 1.5, it just adds a little bit of art style and cinematography and directing to a single image prompt, which is interesting. But this shot really impressed me. I mean, look at the beauty of the fire, the smoke, the people's movement. It did a fantastic job with the animating fire in the building. Also, another good example of a photo shooting. Look at the motion and the movement of the model. It looks quite natural. It really looks like a photo shooting. And the movement of shadow and the movement of the feet. And of course, it little bit modified the outfit. But generally, I think it looks really good. Another shot without me specifying, it gave this nice fluidity and movement to the image. And it gave a strange face to my character, making a kind of like a bored face. And maybe I'm not super happy with the face expression, but the rest of the video looks fantastic with this amazing fluidity that it gave. Here's another example, and it just did a also great job with processing all the light happening in this image. It gave a really nice shot by processing the light in an efficient way. Here's another impressive shot of a fashion photo shooting. Look at the natural movement of the model. Look at the emotion and the smile, and it rendered the outfit, the skirt perfectly without almost any error. It's just a fantastic shot. Another one here, and you can see it processed the parrot nicely and also reflected the emotion nicely. Here maybe there is a slight error with the eye here, but it's really not super visible. It looks very natural. So elephant in the room, right? The waiting times. So Kling AI team actually published a message and they were apologizing for long waiting times due to the increased traffic. And of course, they are trying to take precautions. And I observed some improvements. But from my perspective, waiting times are still significant. It's getting better and it's good to know that they are aware of it and they are working on it. And one thing helped me a lot with waiting times. If I'm doing image to video, I'm generating, for example, 10 videos in the same time or 15 videos in the same time, just giving 10 images and it starts generating. Being able to send 10 jobs in the same time kind of helps and ease up the problems with waiting times. Here's another example. It's image to video again. And in this example, I also added a prompt. 2 racing cars in the desert, camera follows closely, cinematic. So you can see I got a very nice action shot from this prompt and with this image. And I was quite impressed with the motion of the racing car. And slight issue here is over that corner there is a little bit of morphing and suddenly it kind of looks like another car is also moving there. But besides this problem, rest of the shot, especially the camera is following the racing cars closely part, works quite well. In this example, I tried same thing with the version 1. And I got this backwards shot, which is super weird. It didn't really quite work. But one advantage of version 1 is it has ability to extend your video. The version 1.5 doesn't have this feature yet. I think it will come soon. But after this initial video, I used this customized extend option. And for the extension, I wrote this prompt, introduction of a second fighter jet, camera follows closely, cinematic. And it successfully introduced the second fighter jet to the scene. In the image to video, I also tried some camera movements. And of course, I tried as a first thing, zoom out, because if you remember from my previous video, we had a quite lot of struggle with zooming out. And unfortunately, there was no improvement. I wrote camera zooms out and there is no improvement with that. However, when you write zoom in, now the face looks much more coherent. In the previous version, there were some changes in the face while camera is moving. So it looks much more coherent with camera movement. I tried also camera pans right, and I got this amazing cinematic shot. Candles look amazing. The face looked coherent and face didn't change. Super happy with this. However, struggled with pan left. So it didn't listen to my prompt when it comes to camera pans up. However, it did a good job with camera pans down. I mean, we can say good enough. So she looks down and then we see these candles, which is a nice continuation of the background here. And I was happy with this shot, but I can say there's still room for improvement when it comes to camera movements in image to video. I also want to show you a few examples with text to video. Here's a simple prompt, a majestic lion walking, and I use the same prompt for both 1.5 and version 1. And you can see 1.5 did much better job with the walking motion of the lion. With version 1, you have this strange limping of the lion. It just doesn't look natural. I tried a few more text to video examples as well. So I have a lone astronaut gazing at the Earth from the surface of the moon while the camera zooms out. The zoom out of the camera is not really there. We have more of a zoom in. The shot itself, I think it's very good. Another shot that I this time used a crane shot and it just didn't listen to my prompt. It didn't give me the crane shot. In this example, I used the first person view shot and I realized something that most of the time, Klink mixes up first-person view shot with over-the-shoulder shot. And this is something I observed throughout my tests. Just to be on the same side, I tried also with POV shot. I thought maybe, it doesn't get the FPV, but I had the same over-the-shoulder tracking shot instead of POV shot. In another example, I decided to write it like openly, like first-person view, separately instead of a shortcut. And it gave me this shot where Earth and Moon kind of morphed into each other. It didn't really understand what I wanted to do. I also wanted to test world understanding of the model. I wrote cinematic shot of Cleopatra and Julius Caesar greeting people from a balcony in ancient Egypt. And I got a cinematic shot and I got Cleopatra, but Julius Caesar just wasn't here. I also wrote Albert Einstein is promoting a hair cream as a brand ambassador. I didn't get the Albert Einstein's face. It can be some kind of mechanism they added to the algorithm that you cannot really generate famous people's faces. And I understand why they do that. So before you ask, by the way, same with Gordon Ramsay, you cannot really generate Gordon Ramsay. And the shot itself is quite interesting. Here's another shot, cinematic high-angle shot of people are escaping from zombie monkeys in a shopping mall. High-speed shot, high energy. It didn't work out. So you can see we have zombie monkeys, but they are kind of flying around. And we have also people also look like zombies, and they are also flying around. It's a weird shot for sure. This prompt worked really well. A hero sprints at high speed through a crumbling building as debris fall around him. Camera follows closely, weaving between obstacles for added intensity. It did well with the following up the hero, the running and the motion and debris kind of jumping around. And it gives this nice action shot feeling. And Kling also does very well with portraying emotions. So this is a prompt close-up shot of an old woman is crying while looking at the old album photos with a soft ambient light. And you can see it generated and reflected the emotion really, really well. So when it comes to kind of like close-up shots of people, I think the text-to-video of Kling does a really good job. So when we come to conclusion, Kling 1.5 is definitely an improvement in comparison to previous version. I observed strong improvement with natural movement and fluidity of the motion in the scenes, strong understanding of the elements in the image, and animating these elements, textures, the plants and the background and clothing, and separately animating them in a natural way. There is huge improvement there. It has also very good understanding of light, and it understands physics a little bit better. I can clearly see they added some physics understanding to the model. It's not perfect, but there is improvement. However, it feels like this update is not really complete. We definitely need motion brush for version 1.5. We also need extend feature for version 1.5. Until these features are also complete, it feels like even though model is an improvement to the previous version, something is still really missing. Also, looking at the complaints on social media, they really need to find a way to improve the waiting times. Even though being able to generate jobs in parallel kinda eases the situation, there is still quite a lot of complaint. But overall, I can see that there is a significant improvement. So hopefully this video was truly helpful for you. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you found it helpful, and make sure to subscribe for more in-depth tutorials. If you want to learn more about AI art,